Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's April the 3rd. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it's just more of the same today, although we did have a much bigger range and a lot more movement. This was your overnight lows, overnight highs. This was your midpoint right across here, which you can see it came into play several times today. We did have a little failed break higher with a double test right here before we sold off. So this was a nice little setup to get short at the very top. And if you'd taken that trade, you get a runner on this, ride it all the way down. So you had to be a little patient early on. There were a couple of trades here, but it was a little slow. And then we had a little bit of slow period here for between 10:30 and 11 or so. So let me back out. We'll talk about these and we'll wrap it up. Won't take too long today. There's not a whole lot of trades. But 7 o'clock came right in this little swing here. We were working up. That's the first break. We're working. We got a new high. So a lot of times you'll get a second leg up. And the reason I like this one is notice your new low here. Then you're working up. You get a first entry. Then you get a second entry short. It bounces right off the EMA. I like going long there just to look for it to make one more leg up. And hopefully you'll get a measured leg like this one. You didn't quite get that, but and then it turns and makes a lower high, pushes through the EMA, pulls back. You get a failed second entry long. So I like going short right there. And you got a little trend working down. You get a break. You try to make a new low, and it doesn't. It bounces. There is a higher low here, and you might look at this. There's a little bit of support right across here, as you can see. So this is a double test here. We didn't quite have a new low in, and this is a higher low. And really that's all one move. So on a bigger picture, there's a second entry long there. So that's a possibility. I'd skip that with it being a below the EMA still after this reversal type pattern and that big a move down. You know you're probably going to get a second leg down. And it's just a matter of where it's going to start. So I would measure that first leg. And then when we finally did start down, I would look for your next leg, and you can see we went a little bit further than that, but that would have been a nice target right there. And then after two legs down, we reversed. And notice where that reversal happened at the 50% mark, and that's usually a good spot, somewhere between 50 and 70% of a retrace, which this is a retrace from this original move. If you get a reversal in there, usually what I would do is look for another leg up. And I would measure this leg like so and look for a possible measured leg up. We don't quite get that, but that tells you something. But if when you miss it by that much, you're probably going to have a big sell-off in the other direction, and you can see we do. So there's two ways I would have measured this. I would have measured that, and then I would have measured from right here. Just simply because this is a spike in a channel, almost, and that would have given you this target right here, basically. And we didn't go much higher than that, so that was actually a little better target than the first one. But you want to usually measure this entire leg here, and if you don't quite get that, it's telling you something. So that may mean you're going to have a bigger sell-off in the other direction. So anyway, you might take that long. And then notice the new low, you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry short with a nice small, real, very low risk entry right there, a little bit away from the EMA. And that's when I would be looking for that next leg down, because this is a pretty good move. So you're probably going to get another leg down, especially when you didn't make a new low here yet. You're at least going to get a retest attempt on that low. And of course, you find that support again. Notice how it bounces. Even though it's going lower, it still finds some further support there, and it bounces. It moves on down. There's a second entry short here, but look at that congestion. Just stay out of that. And then when you make this, you got a break and a new low, and then you got another move and it bounces. You basically have a double bottom here, way away from the EMA. Again, a very small bar, so very low risk. And this is really a little bit of a higher low here. So I like that one. Quick, easy move back to the EMA, which is exactly where you would expect it to go. Probably going to come back and test this because we haven't tested that breakout yet. Notice we couldn't get back up there right here. And it just pushes on through. It pulls back and it tests this from, let me drag this on across. And you can see it tests this from the lower side on a second entry long, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, right off the EMA, right off that previous support area. Again, a relatively small bar. We hadn't seen a lot of these small bars lately, so that's a great entry. And then it comes back again and gives you a failed second entry short. Technically, that's not a failure, but it's still 2 tries to go lower, a higher double bottom than right here. So, and when it breaks lower and turns, I like going long right there. I don't think I would wait for this bar to finish. That's a really big bar. Really, this entry, the way mine set up, it broke lower and then it turned and went out the other side. So you know you probably got people trapped. And look at that thing take off. And it really does take off like a rocket. There's a higher low right here, but it's right into the overnight highs. You don't want to risk that. Even though it's a great move, don't beat yourself up if you didn't take it right here, because it's not a good setup and you did the right thing. And so then we pull back. You get an overshoot here too. This is like a little spiking channel, and you get a big overshoot right here. So you expect a break to come soon, which on that same move down you get a break, and then you start working higher. There is a failed second entry short here. Notice that low, first entry, you move up second entry. So you may take that trade, but there's not a lot of room here. And even from there, there's not a whole lot more room. But that's another one that you could argue for to at least be green. I just think you're better off to skip it. We do come back here and make another higher low, but not a very good signal bar. And what at this point, I'd be looking for a possible setup for a short. You got a break, you got a couple legs up, and you basically have a new high here already. So when it comes back and makes a double top and that nice bearish bar, and again, it's not one of those huge bars. It's a good setup, and if you catch that one trade, you should be able to get a runner, and you can ride this all the way down, or at least until you think you've ridden it. This would have been pretty easy to stay in right here. As long as it's below this trend line right here, and then when it got in this one, I would have just hung with it. So really nice setup. But we come back here. Actually, you get the failed second entry long right there. I like going short there. Then it comes back, and even though this is a first entry, it's still off that new trend line, and it confirms it. Another small bearish bar as we talked about. And then we're just working lower here. And this is a double top, so this is technically a failed second entry long right here after 2 legs down. And it is off this key entry point, but we've been away from the EMA. We're bouncing off what looks like could be the lower side here. And at that point, you might have looked at it like, hey, this is an overshoot right here. I ended up adjusting this later, and you can see that's pretty much a good fit right there. But it was hard to know that at that point, so I'm just not crazy. And this is bouncing off that. So, but most likely you'd have had this a little tighter then, and it looks like we had a little bit of an overshoot. So if you did look at an overshoot, you might want to risk, say, hey, we may be going lower. But I just think you're better off to skip that one. Again, we could make it green. But when you start chasing trades that far away from the EMA, it's usually just a matter of time until you got some problems. And you even had another chance here, but definitely, and you had to assume once you started heading down that this was our target, the overnight lows. And you can see we had a little failed break lower. There's a higher low right here, not a very good signal bar. and then we're back up here to the trend line, and notice that low, first entry, second entry, and so you gotta move up, a little two-legged move, and another move up. So that's not a great signal bar, but it's at a key entry point. It's really bearish, but it's just really big. So, but I marked it. It may have been a little better bar. You could have had a better signal bar or a worse signal bar, but if yours was better than mine, if you had a nice setup right there, I mean, I might even take that trade right there. So then we move down, we move underneath, and you move up first entry, pull back second entry, and you get a second entry short. You don't really get any good setups here. I wouldn't try to go long right in here just simply because that trend line's still holding. And there it is again, and now you're underneath, you're closing underneath the overnight lows. So on a second entry short, I'd probably take that one too. And off it goes. Or there's no probably, I like that trade. It's right after 2 o'clock, but I'd be, if I was still trading, I'd probably take that trade. So that's the way I'll state that one. And that pretty much did it for today. Generally, I'd tell you, usually you don't want to take many trades right after 2, but that being right there at the 2 o'clock hour within a few minutes on the second entry short off that trend line that's been very strong all the way down. And plus, actually, this is not the overnight low. This is the midline. I'm sorry. I think I called that the overnight low a couple of times, but this is the midline. And so I definitely like that short right there. So anyway, that was it for today. Nothing fancy today. Still a range, still a trading range, but it's a much bigger range with a lot more movement. So you've got, I mean, this is a nice trend within a range. I mean, you're looking at from 28, maybe 89, all the way down to 28.69. That's 20 points. So I mean, that's a nice trend. So even though this is a range day, that's a nice trend. And this is a nice trend up here. This is a nice trend up here. This is not a bad trend down either. So, and there's probably, I didn't draw it on here. You really didn't need it, but there's probably a bigger pattern working right across here. Another channel. That's probably going to be it right there, and you get this overshoot and a reversal. So you can see that right there. I mean, that's a valid channel right there, and that actually gives you a little more incentive on this trade. And if this would have been a better signal bar, it might have even on this one. So you still couldn't take this one because it's right into that support area right there. But anyway, nice, not a bad day today considering. Again, it was just a range day, but again, there's a lot of nice movement here, so you can't complain. This has been, compared to the last couple of days, this was a really good day. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.